So back to our channel. Now we are going to start our vascular physiology. We have completed our cardiac physiology. So today we are going to start our new topic, vascular physiology with hemodynamics. So let us start understanding this. So hemodynamics, what is its main function? Is nothing but the function of cardiovascular system to take oxygen, glucose, amino acids and other nutrients from the gastrointestinal system, because from where the food gets absorbed. So there we take all these essential nutrients and distribute this by means of mainly our circulatory system. So that's how circulatory system plays an important role. So this transport the nutrients to the peripheral tissue. So this is a very simple topic we know. So this is a basic introduction. So from the peripheral tissues, the metabolic waste like carbon dioxide, urea, creatine, they're called as bun, bun means here urea, creatinine and other metabolic waste. So this take them to lungs back and expel them out by the flow of blood through venous system. By venous system again we will expel it out. So like this there is exchange of materials between our capillaries. In the capillaries, the waste which is not needed, it is taken back by veins, and the good we want from the oxygenated blood, that is taken by the tissues. So this is all the exchange which is going on in our circulation. So why this is all going on? To maintain the stable pressure and maintain the vascular system. So this everything to maintain the homeostasis or hemostasis in our blood. So the blood from the left atrium move through the mitral valve to the left ventricle. So you can imagine this, from left atrium to left ventricle, in between we have our mitral valve in our heart. So keep on contracting and close the mitral valve and open the aortic valve and flow through the aorta to the systemic circulation or the major tissues of the body. So this is a normal, that is our cardiac output, it is going on. So now where this cardiac output finally reach? So here you can see the cardiac output, mainly now from that ventricle, left ventricle, it pumps into aorta, a big elastic vessel. So from that aorta now the blood goes into arteries, from there into arterioles. Arterioles are somewhat smaller, and arterioles you can see smallest branches. So from the arterioles it goes into different systems of our body, like you can see into skeletal muscle, into our central nervous system, coronary blood flow, GIT, skin, kidney, so to all other body systems. So aorta plus arteries is called as systemic circulation, because these are the systemic circulation. Systemic in the name you can understand means it is supplying to most of our important organs. This supply to all organs except the lungs, because lungs have its own circulatory system, from right ventricle to pulmonary circulation there. Again via pulmonary vein it enters into our left atrium, we know that thing. So that is for the pulmonary circulation, and the remaining is for the systemic circulation to remaining body parts. So arterioles break into smaller capillaries which are fed by the arterial tree. So further these arterioles are also again broken down into smaller capillaries. In the capillaries mainly the exchange takes place, not in the arterioles. So capillaries, next after capillaries, it transform into venules, and from venules into veins, and finally veins join into our cable system, like inferior superior vena cava. And so from the vena cava, that is right, inferior or superior vena cava, it reaches into right atrium. In turn from the right atrium, we have a tricuspid valve there. So from right atrium into right ventricle we need permission of tricuspid valve to open, and from the right ventricle finally it will enter into the pulmonary circulation. Again we have pulmonary valve there, and pulmonary arterial tree into pulmonary microcirculation again to the left atrium. So this is a pulmonary circulation, this part is a pulmonary circulation, and that before part is a systemic circulation. So that's why we say in humans we have a double circulatory system, closed circulatory system. So this is how the process of blood transferring all this is going on in our body. So next, let us see, this circuit is divided into systemic, that is from left atrium, left ventricle, aorta, arteries, arterioles, capillaries. This is all, of course, venules, veins, cable system. Till cable system, this is called as systemic, between the left heart and the right heart. So you can understand this is like a connection between the left heart and the right heart. But the pulmonary is from the right atrium, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, pulmonary arterioles, capillaries, pulmonary veins, venules. So this is a pulmonary circulation. So like this we have divided our circulatory system into pulmonary and systemic circulatory system. So this is just the introduction basic part. So systemic circulation is usually large, because you can see it involves many organs and it is high pressure system. Even that is the reason here you can understand there are many uh, it should supply to many important organs, so it should be high pressure. And also here it is oxygenated. Whereas coming to pulmonary is a smaller part, and it is smaller part of circulation, and it is a low pressure circulation because here only low pressure is sufficient to pump only to lungs. And also arteries are here deoxygenated because in the lungs mainly the blood get oxygenated, so this all venous blood is taken to the lungs, and where it exchanges with alveoli and gets oxygen and again comes back to our left part of a atrium. So in a normal person, 5% of the cardiac output only reaches the coronary system. So you can see heart is working lot of it is doing lot of hard work for all our systemic parts of our body, but it itself just take only 5% of cardiac output. This is very important point. It works hard for everyone, but it gives less self care to it. It takes only 5% of cardiac output, and 15% goes to the cerebral or central nervous system, and about 25% goes to the GIT, 25% also to the renal system, 25% also to musculoskeletal system, and again 5% only to the cutaneous and skin. So these are all the main how much cardiac output each system takes. So they may be altered by the change in diameter of arterioles. Arterioles we said, so if you want to simply draw this diagram, you can just draw this very easily. So this will be our aorta, this is a pulmonary exchange here, and from here again venules, here comes inferior vena cava, and from here again you will get your right heart, from right heart again it goes into your lungs, and from lungs again into our left heart. So this is like just a simple diagram. So in pulmonary vascular bed, the whole cardiac output reaches only lungs, and the pressure in the left atrium is like about 5 to 8 millimeters of mercury in the left atrium, and pressure in the left ventricle, that is in diastole, it is 0. But when again it undergoes systole, it may reach up to 120 milliliters of mercury. You can see in systole it will reach again 120 milliliters of mercury. And systolic blood pressure is major arterial tree system when ventricle is peak in its systole. So this is very important because this 120 millimeters of mercury is only driving the blood, forcing the blood to move towards our aorta, and from there coming into all systemic circulation. And next you can see during ventricular diastole, aortic valve closes. So this we know already, and the pressure decreases in the aorta, but the blood is still leaving to the other parts of the body, and usually minimum pressure of like 80 millimoles of mercury is maintained there. That is called as diastolic. So you can see diastolic pressure is not dependent on any kind of force. It is just the remaining pressure which is remained there, only that is 80 millimeters of mercury. So BP, this is what forms our blood pressure or BP, that is 120 by 80, 120 which is caused by ventricular, systole, that is systolic pressure, and diastole during relaxation, how much pressure is present in ventricle, that is 80. So this gives the BP 120 by 80, the standard value. So the mean arterial pressure, so what is this? How to find out this? The mean arterial pressure is nothing but diastolic pressure plus one third of pulse pressure. Diastolic pressure we know already, it's 80, one third of pulse pressure. So what is this pulse pressure? Pulse pressure is about 80. Yeah, how to find out pulse pressure? Pulse pressure is nothing but our systolic pressure minus diastolic pressure. So what is systolic pressure? It's 120 minus 80. What is 120 minus 80? It's 40. So like this we will get our pulse pressure. So one third of 40 means 40 divided by 3. I think you will get almost 13, right? So 80, and so here you can see pulse pressure, systolic minus diastolic pressures. So 80 plus 13 will give you 93. So this is the mean arterial pressure. So you can see the same calculation which I have done. 93 milligrams of mercury will be our mean arterial pressure, that is towards our systemic circulation side. So blood is pushed towards the arterioles. Aorta and arteries are elastic, and the advantage is that during systole the stroke volume increases and it stresses the wall, so it doesn't become extensively high, and during diastole blood is moving forward because of elasticity in systemic circulation. So what they mean to say is, as our aorta is luckily elastic, because of its elastic nature only, even during diastole, in diastole we don't have any pressure, but because of this elastic recoil, when it is elastic, it is stretched in systole, but because of its back pressure, now even blood is easily going to move in diastole. So the major arteries break down into smaller arterioles, which are very rich in smooth muscle, and their walls are very thick. So remember that arterioles are having so much smooth muscle, and they are mainly useful in contraction. Dilation, constriction, all those things mainly takes place in our arterioles. So arterioles have great capacity to constriction and relaxation in the site of maximum resistance to the systemic circulation. So we say the term resistance. What is that resistance? Means it is not allowing the blood flow, that is called as resistance. So the term resistance is mainly suitable for our arterioles especially. So this capacity of resistance is altered mainly by dilation or constriction, and they are highly innervated by sympathetic nerve endings. So remember that our smooth muscles, as we said, they are more in our arterioles, and even the sympathetic nerve endings are also more on the arterioles. So you can understand whenever sympathetic activities increase, vessels get constricted. Whenever the sympathetic activities decrease or parasympathetic gets activated, vessels gets dilated. So smooth muscles mainly having the receptors for both epinephrine and norepinephrine, especially on GIT, renal cells, cutaneous cells, and also musculoskeletal. And remember that all these have alpha 1 receptors, but whereas musculoskeletal system has special kind of beta 2 receptors, only they dilate during the sympathetic system. Whenever sympathetic system gets stimulated, almost every blood vessel in our body gets constricted, but only exception is our musculoskeletal system, which gets dilated. So this is to give a key importance. Musculoskeletal system only gets dilated when all others are getting constricted. So GIT, renal, cutaneous, all these cells are having alpha 1 receptors, so they get constricted, so which constrict the arteriole. And pressure in capillaries in the arterial side is like about 30 milligrams of mercury, but in renal capillaries it is 50. Even this is one of the exception. There is forced filtration because of high pressure filtration going on in renal. We will see in renal physiology later, but remember that in capillaries of renal cells, that is renal capillaries, we have 50 millimeters of mercury of pressure, whereas in others it is only like about 30. So next, arterioles can also redistribute the blood, and metabolically active tissue dilate the local vessels and produce the increase of blood flow by altering the diameter according to their metabolic needs. So one thing important we need to know is, whenever the blood vessels, for example, this is a blood vessel, normal blood vessel, whenever it get dilated, you can understand dilated means it has become big. So now the blood flow increases, but the blood pressure decreases, because you can understand it is dilated. So low resistance, so low blood pressure, but flow will be high because bigger diameter. But whenever blood vessels get constricted, you can understand they're constricted, so blood flow decreases because they're constricted, but the blood pressure increases because restriction means what to say, resistance is high. So this is the thing you need to remember in the case of blood flow and blood pressure. So next, later the blood enters the venules and pressure in them is like about only 15. So I can understand, while coming from the systemic side to venous side, the blood pressure is slowly dropping. If you remember before, we said in ventricle systole it is like 120, and later when it has come to our arterioles it has come down to 30, and later in capillaries it is now becoming 15. Yeah, 30 in our capillaries and 15 in our venules, so that the blood can move freely, and the diameter of venules is very high, so the blood does more in veins, that is about 70% of the blood is lodged in veins, so it is called as capacitance vessels, and more lumen with thin wall. So this is a speciality of a venule or veins. Veins have very thin wall, but they're having more lumen, so they can store lot of blood, so they are also called as capacitance vessels, whereas arterioles are called as resistance vessels because they give mostly resistance because of the smooth muscle, but venules are called as capacitance vessels. So you can see here the small volume, stress volume, large volume, arterial side, systemic circulation. So systemic circulation is mainly called as stretched volume. Why it is called as stress volume? Because it is only having small volume of blood. If you remember, arterial side only some amount of blood will be there, so it is called as stress volume. But whereas Unstressed volume is on the venous side because it is having large volume of blood, that is called as, it is mainly seen in pulmonary circulation. So you can see here venodilation means whenever the vessels get dilated. Just now I said whenever vessels get dilated, more blood flow. More blood flow means more unstressed volume is increased, but stress volume is decreased because the blood flow is increased towards the venous side. So because of that, on the stress volume is on arterial side, the blood volume is decreased. So in cable system, their pressure is like about 4 millimeters of mercury. So you can see how gradually the pressure is decreasing. So before we have seen in capillaries, it's like about 30. In venules, it's 15. So the now pressure has finally come to 4 in our cable system, that is in inferior or superior vena cava. Remember, the pressure is only 4 millimeters of mercury. So right ventricle diastole. So now you can understand in venules, in venous side, if the pressure is 4, now this blood need to come to the right atrium. So if the blood should come to the right atrium according to the concentration gradient or pressure gradient, you can understand now the pressure should be very much low in our right atrium, that is like about 0. You can see the right ventricle in diastole mainly the pressure is 0 because to attract the blood from the venous side, because in venous side is 4 milligram. So systolic pressure, of course in systolic pressure it should increase because now even it should pump some of the blood to our lung, that is pulmonary circulation. So for that the ejection, in the ejection it produces the systolic pressure of like 25 millimeters of mercury. So now again from here, from the right ventricle side, again the pressure starts increasing and finally again it reaches into our right atrium, right ventricle. Again in the right ventricle it becomes like about 120. So this is a continuous cycle going on. So pulmonary circulation is with low pressure and smaller circulation. So pressure in pulmonary artery during ventricular systole is only 25 and during diastole is 8 millimeters of mercury. So in right atrium the pressure is 0. Pressure in left heart is governed mainly by aortic and arterial resistance pressure. So pressure in right heart is mainly governed by ventricular and resistance of pulmonary arterioles, of course. So pulmonary capillaries exchange of gases takes place and the pressure is like about 8 millimeters of mercury, and now the oxygenated blood move through the pulmonary veins with the pressure of 5 millimeters of mercury. So mean arterial pressure in pulmonary system is like 15 millimeters of mercury in the beginning of circuit. So remember that mean arterial pressure of our systemic circulation is 93, whereas mean arterial pressure of pulmonary circulation is just only 15 milligrams of mercury. And the pressure is 5 to 8 millimeters of mercury in the end of circuit. So at the end of this pulmonary circuit, the pressure has come to 5 to 8 millimeters of mercury. That is 5 to 8 millimeters of mercury pressure blood now reaches into right atrium finally. So again in the right ventricle it will be converted into 120 by a ventricular ejection. So the velocity of blood flow. So what is this? Velocity. What is the velocity according to our physiology? Is velocity is the rate of displacement of blood per unit time in linear fashion with circulatory system. So what is this? Let us understand by an example. So blood flow. It is a volume of blood passing through an area of circulatory system per unit time. It is blood flow is nothing but in like per unit area how much blood is flowing, that is the blood flow. What is velocity? The rate of displacement of blood per unit time. Means in linear fashion, means in straight line how the blood is moving per unit time. That is called as velocity of blood flow. So velocity is directly proportional to blood flow. I think by definitions only you can see they are like somewhat both equal. So if velocity increases, blood flow increases. If velocity decreases, blood flow decreases because they are directly related. Whereas velocity is inversely proportional to cross-sectional area of blood flow. That is, if the cross-sectional area has increased, but velocity decreases. If cross-sectional area is decreased, then velocity decreases. It's like blood pressure, just now we had discussed. If the vessels get dilated, means cross-sectional area has increased, but blood pressure decreases. So like that. So from aorta, arteries to arterioles to capillaries. So flow of blood will be like this, we know. And here 100 ml area is like in aorta the area is 1 centimeter, in arteries 10 centimeters, in arteriole 100 centimeters. You can think like aorta is like fattest one when compared with this, but this is talking about total of the area. So total area of aorta is just like only 1 centimeter. Total area of arteries, if you compare it, it's 10 centimeter square. Total area of all arterioles is 100. So if you take the total, this is greater when compared with a single aorta. So you can see the flow 10 milliliter per second, it remains the same. Yeah, so the flow along the aorta arteries, because same amount of blood is flowing, so the flow remains the same, but the area only changes. You can see the area is keep on increasing whereas flow is decreasing. So this what shows that velocity is inversely proportional to the area. Velocity is decreasing whereas area is increasing. So for the area we have a formula: area is equal to pi into radius and flow q is equal to 10. So let us substitute in this formula. So V is equal to Q by A is equal to pi r square. So first one, 10 for iota, 10 by 100, because flow is 10 r square, so 10 by 100. And for second one we have 10 by 10, for third one we have 10 by 1. So if you take the values, for iota it's 0.1, for arteries it's 1, and for arterioles it's 10. So if velocity decrease, blood have more capacity to exchange with the capillaries. Yeah, especially in capillaries, if you see the velocity decreases, so that blood moves slowly in the capillaries, so there is more time for the exchange between the tissues and the capillaries. So from this we can depict that if velocity increase in aorta, velocity decrease in arteriole, velocity further decrease in capillaries, the flow remains same, and the velocity decrease furthermore in a arteriole. Whereas velocity increase in veins, velocity increase in venules, and also increase in our cable system. So cross sectional area, in means of cross sectional area, you can see in aorta cross sectional area is decrease, in arteries it is increase, in arterioles it's further increase, whereas in capillaries it's longer more increase. In venules it is decrease, in veins it is decrease, in cable system also the cross sectional area is decrease. Now let us see the relationship between blood flow, pressure gradient and resistance.